Hey, Boy Manning here. Welcome to a practice edition of the Garden Report. The Celtics back from their 2-game road trip, and so is Josue Pavon
Back
here.
home, baby. Let's go.
And another Celtic back in the mix too, maybe here late in the season. Blake Griffin. The speculation continues. Payton, Pritchard, Derrick White appearing on the PFT podcast and saying that as recently as December they've talked with Blake, tried to get him to come back. And the answer has been pretty consistent. What I've heard too, Josue, going back to early this season, is that he's living in LA. He's focused on his family. There's no real interest at this time, or at least even at that time, of coming back this year. So no return in the cards, I'd say, this season. But worth a shot. I think he would have helped this group in the deep reserve role. The problem this year, I think, from Blake's standpoint, is that he probably wouldn't have played very much.
Yeah, it would have been a cool story, but I mean, even having him in the locker room though would have been great. I would have loved for them to pull that off, especially when you hear nothing but good things. Even up until this season, Derrick White telling us he's easily one of his favorite teammates ever. I mean, he's not the only one who said that. Who has said that in the past? You know, even last year, especially throughout the postseason. Obviously, Eastern Conference Finals comeback came up short there, but Blake had a lot to do with just a sense of where they were mentally, and I feel like it would have been a really cool story to have him back in the mix. But everyone respects his decision. You know, he wants to spend time with his family, wants to take time on his own. But yeah, really cool to hear Derrick White and other guys say that they were sort of trying to convince him to come back. Man, it's pretty cool.
Here's Joe Mazzulla saying that he spoke to Blake last summer and heard a similar answer.
I mean, I talked to him a little bit in the offseason. I talked to him like 1 or 2 times, I think, when we were in LA. But I kind of, you know, when he told me at the end of last season that his family was the most important thing, I stopped talking to him about it because I know what it's like to be away from your kids and be away from your family. So he's always going to make a decision. That's what's best for him.
Did he tell you like he definitely wasn't going to be coming back this year then?
No, he just said that the most important thing were his kids.
So it's probably not going to be Blake. I have to think that Celtics may fill that 15th spot internally. Xavier Tillman comes in as well, so the big man position's kind of filled at this point. But when you look at veterans around the league, when you look at guys who could support this roster, I still wouldn't. If he really wants to come back down the stretch, there's going to be no playing time. There's going to be no real on-court role, which probably isn't super appealing to move out here and do all that to not play. But I would take him in that spot still to this point. Like I think that would be a real boost to this team. And then of course, if he's not playing, he doesn't really need to be in great shape and ramping up and all of that. So I don't know. I don't feel like it's in the cards at this point this season. But do you feel like there could be a surprise? I think sometime in March is probably that deadline to join the team and be eligible for the playoffs. But is there even a miracle chance at this point that he could hop on last second like a P.J. Brown?
I mean, if you keep campaigning like this, it's going to only help, right? I love that it's brought up in the podcast, and now here we are talking about it, and other people will be talking about it, so it applies that pressure. And if you look at where we are in the season, it kind of fits the timeline in the sense of buyout season, mid-March or early March, I should say, get a chance to ramp up and just kind of have that role in case of, someone gets hurt, you can throw them in there. And it's a playoff run destined to reach the NBA Finals. So if you're Blake, it's worth considering.
That's what he signed on for in the first place.
Exactly. So you see the way this team is constructed and all that. But again, if he's not feeling it mentally, what can you do? But I do think that all of this talk and all of this, reports about it, and Joe Mazzulla being asked about it, and Derrick White talking about it after doing a podcast about this topic, it only increases the likeliness. That only increases the chances, I should say, of seeing Blake come back. And hopefully it happens. But if it doesn't, man, you can't fault the guy. He's not into it. His heart's not into it. But this type of role, this type of latch onto the team for the next 3 months and let's just see what happens. When you consider who he was last season for this team in the locker room and all that, I think it's nothing. It'll only help this team.
Or maybe next year. Maybe he needs to pull that year off, get his body right, all that. I'm sure that's what he's doing right now. You can check out Derrick, Joe talking at practice today. Celtics going to be back in action tomorrow against the 76ers. We'll have coverage of that over at the Garden as they begin a 3-game homestand here against the Sixers, Mavericks, and Warriors. Some big games coming up, so the Celtics start preparing for that here today at practice. Some highlights up here on Celtics All Access as well, so check those out. Josue Pavon by Man. There's been a practice edition of the Garden Report.
Take the first step to visibly thicker hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off first month subscription. Once again, $10 off first month subscription, free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and use the code GARDEN. Once again, $10 off Nutrafol.com/men. use the code GARDEN.